Signs of the Southland. It's Sunday, October 1st, 2023. Mr. Grant and Mr. Purdy, it has been quite possibly a disastrous sports weekend in the city of Atlanta, and only approximately, let's see, 60% of that is Georgia Tech related.
Are you really going to put me through that take knowing full well that I had to watch the Cubs implode with my own eyes in Atlanta this week? Like, come on, man.
Hey,
You guys have
technically,
the number one seed. Life's good. The Atlanta United's
tech,
going to the playoffs. Do not put the.
technically in Smyrna, and United didn't play this week.
Didn't you pull the they're technically in Atlanta card on me literally last week?
I play both sides, so I always come out on top.
Ugh, grumble, grumble.
This is the beauty of having the Braves in unincorporated Cobb County. But let's talk about constructing pieces of Georgia Tech's campus, in unincorporated parts of Atlanta. Mr. Purdy, talk to me about new developments there.
I'll let Jake color more in after I explain where this is, but this was announced, I want to say like a month or two.
It's been in the news
earlier. Was it
yeah.
earlier? Okay. It's summer. This may be one of the summer announcements that we were like, where is this thing? So there is a thing called the Divine Nine Plaza, which is getting built. If you all know where the Flag Building was, the Smith Gall Building. There's what?
It's still there.
No, it is.
They didn't knock it down.
Right behind it there's like a grass patch behind it that sits in between that and the beginning of like the exhibition hall buildings next to the parking deck. And it was just a grassy space with three rocks just sitting there. And they're finally turning that into something. Jake, I know you have the better description of what this thing actually is about, but it's going to turn into a much more appealing space at the very least.
Yeah, certainly more appealing. It was kind of a nowhereville before it. But the Divine Nine Plaza essentially, I believe, celebrates the historically Black sororities and fraternities on campus. So it's a space kind of dedicated to what they do and their legacy in the campus, but also certainly in Atlanta at large, given their strong roots here. So good to see. Kind of was a surprise, at least to us when it got announced. But shovels are in the ground and it's definitely coming along. So eager to see what it looks like when it's done.
Yeah, if you walk by it on campus, like the fencing's not really getting in the way, so you can get a good look at what it looks like right now. They've got a lot of it done already, actually. So that'll be something I imagine will be done by spring semester.
Yeah.
Some other construction news that's not on the sheet. I don't know if we talked about it last week. The Scheller Towers have finally started construction in the in the Tech Square side of campus. That entire parking lot, or what used to be a parking lot, is now fenced off with construction trucks on that site. So that should be coming along swimmingly over the next few years. That took a little bit of time, like since an original announcement. I think it was like a year and a half delayed.
They did like the
remember.
ceremonial first dig, and that patch of dirt just sat there for a year. Like you could see where Cabrera put his shovel in, and I think the dirt patch just never moved.
I think that was tied up in Board of Regents stuff, type 2. And when you think about it, there's only so many resources at a given time to actually do construction on campus. I mean, they put up CODA, they put up the Crosland renovation, Student Center renovation. They've done Atlantic Street. There's just a lot going on. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was some resource type limitation there too.
Hey,
they're also saying this
next
is
major project after this. Yeah, so that is two towers. That's a good point. I was going to say the next major project after this is a dorm on West Campus. So people will be watching the completion timeline of this one with bated breath.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I do know they're supposed to use at least the Scheller building more for graduate stuff. They currently use, all the current building for all the business related things, and sometimes they sneak other schools as classes in the building, but it'll definitely allow for a lot more growth on the graduate side of things, and adding to those numbers. And
to be clear, the Scheller Tower building will be used for graduate studies. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and then the ISYE building will be the ISYE building over there.
There's way too many things with the same name
desperately. So
so bad
for them.
Yes,
good for them.
Hey! You put a new coat of paint inside the instructional center, and it counts as a new building, right?
That's what they said in like 2017. So look where we're at now.
Let's make it look better.
I mean, there's still a couple of classrooms that have posts in the middle of the viewing gallery. So
True. Yep. This is true.
all's well that ends well, I guess. Speaking of things that did not end particularly well, let's get the hardest discussion of the night out of the way and talk about Georgia Tech football dropping an absolute egg to Bowling Green. Mr. Purdy, do you want to walk us through this with the polite takes on this before we start saying angry things?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I mean, going in, we were heavy favorites. Bowling Green had showed they had done nothing this season so far, and we had at least.
Sorry, 1 second. I want to contextualize that. 22-point favorites at one point, by the way.
22-point. Okay, I forgot what the number was. Thanks for clarifying. What was the deal here? Yeah, we had the whole thing about like, oh, we got these new glow that our uniforms we're gonna wear, which if you read my take on our mailbag, you know that I hated those to death. But I mean, we had a road win at Wake Forest last week, which was really promising. It's just a stabilizing, good thing to have here. And then we go up to a 14-point lead early. We like first play, long kickoff return to the 47-yard line, and the next play is a 53-yard pass to Eric Singleton. Looks great. Things are chugging along quite well. Bowling Green just they punt, and then we go down the field and just tear through them and get a second touchdown. We're up 14-0. And that's pretty much where all the good things stopped. What we didn't realize in those first 5 to 6 minutes, I'd say, is the defense was not exactly ready. And they admitted that. Paul Mayola admitted that after the game, where he said they were not prepared. Brent Key called it an absolute, this might not be word for word, but basically an absolute failure on all levels. So, we lost 38-27. We had a consolation touchdown at the end. Bowling Green basically just ran and passed all over us from the second quarter on, and it was garbage time by the fourth quarter. It was absolutely garbage time by the fourth quarter. Well, my note that I picked from the book I have here is Bowling Green notably was what were they? They were 10 of 17 on third down. There was 36 total Bowling Green plays run after initial third downs throughout the whole game. So they were getting extra opportunity after extra opportunity after extra opportunity. They converted a fourth down as well. There was nothing the defense was doing that looked good at all. I've seen some bad defensive performances from us and from other teams I've gone and seen before in the past. But this was against a team that was not supposed, that probably isn't good still. We made them look amazing. And by we made them look amazing, it seems like they're putting that blame on Thacker, who is no longer our defensive coordinator as of now. He's now the safeties coach. I am now forgetting who got promoted. Oh,
Kevin Shearer is now
defensive coordinator. Yeah. So we didn't get rid of Thacker, but he is no longer going to be the primary man on the defense after this shellacking.
Mr. Grant, you were also in attendance.
That I was. I do want to, before I take a bit of a left turn to the actual topic at hand, I got some live feedback about episode 184 of Scions of the Southland and said, quote, "That did not age very well. I am currently listening." So I would like to apologize for feeling confident going into this game. And see, I promise this is related, because I feel like Georgia Tech, yes, the last 6-7 minutes against Ole Miss, not good. Obvious glaring mistakes that needed to get fixed against Louisville, not good. But other than that, to this point, had, generally acquitted themselves decently well in a way that I think people could and reasonably were a little bit excited based on that. That said, I missed the first score. I was in a never-ending line to get some concessions because water and food and such is important. And they scored about 2 minutes after I sat down a second time. And from there, I saw us give up 38 straight points. Honestly, it's something that, I guess in the stadium, you can't really... Jack, you're in the press box, so I think it's a little bit different for you. But you're kind of going more based on vibes and the things you see, not necessarily what actual stats look like. So I made a point to go check afterwards, and Tech was not, how do I say, not horrible completely on defense first, second down, but on third down they were absolutely abysmal.
Yeah,
just
I think
could not.
that was the big thing is they could stop a run, they could at least force an incompletion, but then everything shut down on third down, like basically every single time when it mattered. It was to the point where Bowling Green they were committing like what should have been drive defeating penalties with holding calls. They had a DPI that was on them, like holding calls, illegal shit,
and
whatever. And they just converted
giving it all back.
Yeah,
they gave it all back in single plays.
It was there was no third down that they couldn't convert.
Yeah, which again against a not good MAC team, you just can't do that. And yes, some normalization is to be expected in turnovers and stuff like that. But two really not.
Bowling Green had committed 12 going into the game. 12.
Yeah, you don't force any. I mean, yeah, you get 2 sacks, you get 8 havoc plays, fine. But I mean, it shouldn't come down to interceptions and fumbles and these big sack plays. So they do help in order to beat Bowling Green. Tech's a more talented team. Tech had very little success, and when I look at plays here, I'm usually citing GameOnPaper.com, the official, unofficial, stats and advanced stats source for this fine podcast and this website too. A 35% stop rate. Akshay, I don't know if you want to add a little color there, but that ain't great, Chief.
Well, before you finish, I want to define that because I don't know if it's actually defined on the site. Well, it's defined somewhere, but it's not in that specific spot. The stop rate is basically it's the percent of drives that for a defense that end in a turnover or a punt. So obviously, you change a possession as a stop, and then a punt is a stop. It doesn't matter where on the field it is. It's just as long as possession that the drive ended in a non-score and a change in possession, that's what's counted there. So what that's saying is, and what was the number of drives that Bowling Green had?
They had
Bowling Green had 11.
Yeah, they had 11. One of them was a kneel down drive.
Okay, so toss the kneel down and make it around 10. Okay, this doesn't work out the best, but what we're saying is effectively on only 3 drives did Tech force a stop out of 10 actual drives. Take the percentage out of the way, but they only got 3 actual stops during the entirety of the game.
That's not good.
One of them was in garbage time. Look at the plays. It was in the fourth quarter when it was deader than dead. They got the ball at 12-12 in the fourth quarter. The game was over, but they just went for it on 4th and 15 from our 35 just because it was kind of they had a 4th and 15. It was like, well, too far to kick it, too close to not go for it. So one of them was a garbage time one anyway. So there was like basically on 6 of 8, they got something done.
Yeah,
6 of 9, but yeah.
They walked Tech up and down on the field on several big plays. Like they could control the ball. I'm not even going to say they looked effective because I don't even know if that's necessarily true.
I mean, their EPA per play is damn good. So yeah, they were running all over us. They were doing acrobatic catches. They would have guys over the middle all the time. They would throw screen passes that would go for way too long just because we could not tackle to save ourselves, like at all. There were so many missed tackles or just failure to wrap situations that, I mean, that's what killed, I think, a lot of us in the crowd the most. Like I was still hearing a lot of stuff from the press box of just like, that's the first time in a while I've heard any boos in the stadium, especially under Key. That's the first booing situation under Key for sure.
I mean, it's section 111 was packed with recruits.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Before the game,
obviously you're not going to get all of them, but that's not the impression you want to make. Jeez.
Yeah, so it's a big turnoff. That's a gigantic turnoff when things are just now seeming to be like, okay, we lost an understandable one to Ole Miss. It's the Louisville loss is making more sense now in hindsight. and we took care of the rest of those. Oh, it's just this just sucks. This sucks a
Well,
lot.
I was getting mad like with the Wake Forest thing. I was like, hey, like those big plays count. Like they still hit it.
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
like this is the antithesis of that, right? Is not only are you not hitting some of those plays, but you're also like getting throttled by a team that, I mean, yeah, numbers are still numbers, like stars are stars, but
Jake, to your note
by all
about
means,
us,
like
to your note about us being decent on first and second down in the early downs tab here on sports on or game on paper, EPA per play for Bowling Green was -0.4. Like they were not doing anything on first and second down. They were a purely third and fourth down team, and that created all of their juice, and we just were hopeless after that.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is quite insane how on one particular situation, a team did so well. I'm not going to call it an outlier because on the other plays, still we look terrible. Like they may have had some drops and just bad running decisions and stuff like that, but that doesn't excuse the fact that every single part of that was terrible. And
Well,
Brett owned up to it. He took it on his shoulders. He was a leader there. He did not blame other folks. So in terms of leadership here, I'm glad that he understood what was going on here and they made the proper change immediately. They did not waste time on that. So, yeah,
yeah.
that's all I got there.
I don't know. I think it was kind of the worst fears of everything about how the defense had been run for the previous 4 years, all coming home to roost.
Yeah.
In this game, and I don't know. It's probably not right to say like, "Oh, could have seen that coming," but like, I mean,
there were a couple warning signs from that Wake game. We were outdone in the net success rate. Like Wake was better in that department. Just the things fell right for us in the end on that game. And then we just got categorically worse in this game. Just so much worse.
I think the biggest thing that like kind of voice of the fan type, we talk numbers, we talk some personnel type stuff, not really players type personnel, but we've talked a little coaching. I think the fan perspective that I want to say where I'm at is just a voice of the fan type thing. Is I just want to believe so bad. UNC, Pitt last year, Wake this year, even the good parts of the Louisville and Ole Miss games. Like,
right, no, the good parts of the Ole Miss game lasted a while. Like that was a one-score game with 10 minutes left to go in that game. That's not nothing. That is a success for us considering where we've been.
I just want to believe that they can turn it around, that they can do good. It's not an alignment thing. It's not a whatever. It's just make tackles and absolve yourself against in games you should win. A sign of progress is never linear, right? You're not going to go from the dregs to the top of the ACC overnight. But man, it is just it's just tough. It's tiring. It's a little sad. I don't know. Yesterday was the first time I went into a game confident in a long time, and I'm not going to take the blame there on me because I'm not on the field. Cue the
entire audience saying it's the hope that kills you. They all said it in the last 5 seconds.
I was in I was in Truist on Wednesday, and there was this family of Cubs fans in front of us, and in the 7th, 8th inning, they busted out the W flag. I was like, the game is not over. The game is not over. And I should have taken that lesson to heart for Saturday morning. Confidence. No confidence.
Man.
You know, but the game's not, it's why you play the games, right? I say this in a lot of context, but hey, Bowling Green executed a game plan and they forced a couple turnovers, but straight up, they played effective football on third down. Like they played effective football and, maybe they set themselves up for a second, but like, the game is the result of all these individual moments, and they consistently were very effective when they really needed to be, including when Tech's offense was in the red zone too.
One more note. We had the ball for 17 minutes and 15 seconds. Bowling Green had it for 42 minutes and 45 seconds. They had is this the whole game here? Yeah, I think for the whole game they had they had the ball for over 11 minutes and 3/4. We had the ball for under 4 minutes and 3/4. This is the second most time of possession a team has had against us since ever. The most being, I think it was Bama in 1979 or 89, one of those years. So the long time, like errors removed since we've ever had a team have the ball this long against us. In credit because we ran a system that required us to run the ball and keep the ball for so long, and now we don't do that. So, there are some weird anomalies going on in this whole thing. It just is so heightened by the fact that it came against this team and not against anybody else that we could have been like, well, they're at least decent. No, we're 22.5-point favorites.
Here's the counterpoint to that. Well, not really a counterpoint; it's a supporting point. If you glance through the play-by-play and sort of look at the way that this game played out for Tech, they score in those first 2 drives, right? So that takes you through
the combined 2 minutes and 3 seconds of possession.
Right, but then immediate, like at the end of the first quarter, after Bowling Green scores their first touchdown, that's a 3-and-out immediately. That's 3-and-out with a penalty, actually.
Yeah.
And then the next drive after that is 3-and-out. The next drive after that is 4-and-out, actually, with an attempt on. Oh no, this was the punt.
That was the punt fumble that hit the up back. Yeah,
the punt fumble, which you can chalk up to randomness, and also you can chalk up to just lack of preparedness.
We had a 3-drive stretch where we called 12 total plays.
And then Tech ended up in a 4th and 32 to end the first half. And then they went on a long drive in the third quarter, two more long drives in the third quarter, 4-and-out in the fourth quarter. Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of that time is mostly, it's a combination of Tech's offense being completely ineffective. So that has to be noted at a certain level here. When it's ineffective in some of these immediate 4-and-outs. I think some of these stats, remember the stats on Game on Paper aren't garbage time adjusted. So you see that once this game gets out of hand and you have those game state effects where maybe defenders back off a little bit, you see Tech's offense getting more successive and padding some of these stats. And I think that's why you see even the post-game win probability stat that ESPN's Bill Connolly puts out, right? Bowling Green was only rated at 27% post-game win probability. And that usually kicks in when a team is, I mean, that's garbage time adjusted and everything. But I think this is one of those games, and I think we had a couple of these last year too, where the game was close enough to just fall within. The literal scoreline was just enough to fall within the garbage time parameters, but the semantic, what we understand to be garbage time was still in effect.
The feeling was there. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to nail some of the 5 factors, right? Tech led was +4 in success rate, was plus effect like 2.5 in yards per play, was -7 in explosive play rate, was red zone success rate as a proxy for finishing drives was +5. They had their available yards percentage was -4. So you can pick and choose some of these stats. I'm not going to read all of them off because I don't think that's productive, but like Tech had an offensive performance that looks good when you consider the sum of the game, but not specific points in the game specific points in the game before game state effects took place.
Yeah, before it mattered. Yeah. And even when we had
I think that's sort of the narrative. Yeah.
That's fair. And those last touchdown drives were also, we had the ball for 2 minutes one time all game, and that was to finish the game. When we needed to be good, we were absolutely not.
And I mean, there's a certain level here. You just kind of have to tip your cap to Bowling Green making big plays in big moments, right? You see, and I think we talked about this with regards to third down, and that kind of shows in some of their big plays by absolute EPA, right? Connor Bazelak on 4th and 7 completes a 10-yard pass to the Georgia Tech 27 for a first down in the second quarter. He throws a TD on a 3rd and 10. He scrambles for a first down on 3rd and 16 from his own 8. Connor Bazelak throws a 50-yard bomb on a first and, I mean, that's a first and 10.
Yeah.
But some of these negative situations, right? 2nd and 18, Bazelak hits Abdul Fattah Ibrahim for 17 yards into the red zone, right? 3rd and 9, Terrian Stewart runs for 12 yards. These are back-breaking plays.
Back-breaking, emotionally.
You've set yourself up for success.
Yeah,
you've set yourself up for success in your early downs, and you're completely blowing those opportunities on late downs.
Yep.
And it's
that changes so much about the front half of this game. Like, there's so many ways where this could have been 14-3, 14-7, 14-0. More. I mean, I'm not going to give our offense any extra credit here because they just did not do well in the second quarter. But
it's both like both phases of the game. I mean, if you want to throw special teams in there for muffing a punt, go ahead. Like, it's a complete failure. There's nothing really more I have to say on the matter.
Yep, I think that was all of it.
I'm not mad. I'm just
let y'all take it after that. I was like, I've said my part. I'm just sad. I want to believe.
Let's do it again on Saturday, shall we?
I'll believe it when we can make more tackles. How's that? Right? Clean tackling. That's a good start.
One, we've been saying that for approximately a decade, but number two, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, and that's honestly worse. The next time you will see Georgia Tech football, they will be playing at Miami at 8 p.m. on the ACC network on the 7th of October, next Saturday. Let's take a quick detour over to the cross-country track. Let's see if we can generate a little bit more optimism, a little bit more excitement. We started off with a negative. We're building up, right? They were at the Lehigh and Alexander Asics Invitationals this weekend. They did a split squad. I believe, Jake, you consider this you send the early top line racers over to Lehigh, and the people who are available for the Alexander Asics, they send to Alexander Asics. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would say so. Just kind of going over the list, the Paul Short run up at Lehigh is a absolutely huge, massive event. I just want you to guess how many collegiate men were scored runners in this race. Just take a guess.
2K.
That's actually too many. I didn't think you would go over, but it's 1,169.
Nice.
Which, the women's, I believe, is a little bit larger. They're actually a little smaller. I lied. 1,112. But in terms of I clicked on the high school. Whoops. No, I clicked on the right one. I just didn't recognize a bunch of the schools. My bad. That said, lots of competition here in the aggregate, or in the volume sense. Tech's top finisher among the men was Devin Wade with a 24-34-5, I believe, in the men's 8K. Gale took home first for the men. Tech finished in 11th behind Belmont, Boston, Utah Valley, Wisconsin Lacrosse, good for them, Navy, Penn State, Liberty, Stony Brook, and Wingate, while also finishing in front of Army, Carnegie Mellon, about 100 other schools, but notably 8 spots behind them was the folks from Athens. So always good to see really a long list of schools. You got Canadian non-NCAA, you've got D1, D2, D3. Emory finished in 46th. Mercer, which was ahead of Mercer in 50th. So really, you get quite a lot out there. In terms of the women also were up there competing. I would say that they fared even better. They finished in 6th behind Utah Valley, Wake, Boston University, Penn State, and Quinnipiac, and in front of Belmont, West Virginia, and of course those folks from out in Athens. The Tech ladies' top finisher was Grace Driscoll in 13th with a 20-37-6 in the 6K. All in all, I'd say pretty fine weekend. I don't know what your guys' impression are, but top 10 and 11th out of 100 and something. That's a pretty good finish in my book. They've
been doing well. Like John and Zach did pretty well a couple weeks ago. We mentioned, this meet's huge. Like this, like my day job is somewhat involved in this meet as well. So like been aware of it for a while and just know everyone goes to this. That's on the East Coast basically. So
I'm impressed. I'm impressed that they can fit them all into town based on their
I don't know
being
how they do that.
2,000 runners,
Bethlehem
let
and
alone
Altoona,
coaches in high
Pennsylvania.
schools.
Pennsylvania and Bethlehem and Altoona, Pennsylvania are not exactly large cities in any way. They are towns. Those are towns. So
Like,
yeah, I don't know.
where do they go to lunch?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, they all have Altoona pizza.
Yeah.
I'm
I
sure there's
mean,
about 5 Waffle Houses there. They can all separate
Seriously,
and
no
go to.
there's
one,
no
no one
Waffle House in the
reacted with
north, Jack.
vitriol to Altoona pizza. Have you
No,
seen a
Altoona
picture
pizza
of
is
this
weird.
pizza?
I've seen the pictures. They're it's a little spooky. Jack, have you looked up this before?
I'll look it up. Y'all keep talking.
Yeah, no. It's also a
Well,
huge I was gonna say it's also a huge high school meet as well. So
What the hell
really
is
just
this?
tons.
What the hell? Oh my god!
did you want Kraft singles on pizza? Because that's what you're going to get.
So bad.
Moving, adjacent to the bad pizza, I will say that my only thought on this meet is beating blood rival good. And that is
Yes.
about all of the mental energy or all of the mental processing that I can muster because I don't understand how cross country and stuff works. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's just too much going on for you to really be able to get much more than that out of it, I think.
beating blood
Beat
rival
some
good.
beat some good D1 programs too. Can't complain about that.
Good stuff. You'll see cross country again in action on the 13th of October at the Arturo Barrios Invitational in College Station, Texas. I assume that's hosted by Texas A&M. Speaking of running of the pool, swim and dive was in Tallahassee for the Florida State Classic this past weekend. Just to go over a couple of the results before I let Mr. Grant cut his annual promo on the swim and dive program. The men placed second place out of 3. They beat TCU, and I assume the third team that placed first was Florida State. Niels Bognar with a win in the 400 IM, Batar Unlu with a win in the 500 free. Max Fowler won the 1 and 3 meter diving portions, and Berke Saka won the 200 back. On the women's side, they placed third out of 4. The only team below them was Liberty. Mackenzie Campbell finished first in the 400 IM. Clarissa Sabin won the 100 breaststroke, and Elizabeth Powley won the 1 meter diving competition. Mr. Grant, talk to me.
Yeah, I'm going to do something a little bit different here, and I'm going to start by talking about diving. I think they deserve their praises all this weekend because Max Fowler, Elizabeth Powley, if the results are to be believed, are both freshmen as well. And to come out in your first collegiate competition and score some points, get on the board, literally, I'm very funny. Were there only 3 dudes competing in the actual scored part of the diving? Yeah, but that's how every race is because you only got a couple entries in each one. I believe that's they also had Alex Scott on the boards for the men, at least in the 1 meter. And there was, I think, one more, Anna Bradescu for the women on the boards as well. But for the 2 of them as freshmen to come out and notch some points, I think that's a good place to start in terms of focus, at least how we talk about swim this year, because really, I think they're still figuring it out in terms of the post Kaio, Christian, et cetera, era. There's a decent amount of figuring out to do. Tech also had a couple of notable outward transfers last year, including how many records did Denise Erton hold? Like 3,
Many.
4?
A good amount.
A bunch.
If she swam distance freestyle, she had it.
Yeah, basically, I think it was 200 and up, but I can't remember all the details there. But anyways, all that said, if you can notch points in diving, especially if you can get a couple good divers in through to NCAA's, that's always a good sign, and for it to be starting young is really great to see with those freshmen. A couple other news and notes. Tech has some familiar faces back. Unlu Saka Campbell, we've talked about them. 6 ways to Sunday. The one thing I do want to circle back around on is with the way that relays, meets, etc., were scored this weekend. Tech wound up actually having a bunch of occasions where they had the next best relay, so fifth best for the women and fourth best for the men. Particularly on the men's side, a lot of B relays coming in fourth, which again may not score, but just seeing that depth in there is never something to shake a stick at. So one thing to keep an eye on there. Also, they will get Florida State. Jack, what did we say? The 19th? The 19th? They're swimming against Florida State? Yeah. So they'll catch them soon. And Tech was only 20 points off of them on the men's side. So definitely something to keep an eye out. Those 20 points, that's a swing of a couple of events. If you think about it, with a 16, 20 point type deal for first, maybe swimming a straight up duel or maybe more traditionally scored meet. You see some results there, maybe a couple, just moves in the lineup and things like that. I've got no complaints though. I mean, would it be great to win? Sure. I think the men are a little closer than we might think, and let's see some of that depth play out in dual meet season here. How's that for a good summary, gents?
You can't see this because podcasting is a visual medium, but I gave Mr. Grant's 2 thumbs up here, and that leads us straight into a short break.
And as always, this podcast is brought to you by Section 103. Section 103, as always, the finest Georgia Tech apparel. Tonight, I'm not wearing my Section 103. I'm actually wearing a shirt designed by Akshay when we were both in college. But he doesn't do that anymore. Good for you. Steven does. Steven and the gang over at Section 103 make the softest Georgia Techiest apparel. It's in all of our closets, and we absolutely look forward to adding more to our collections every day, every week. Fresh stuff out includes, of course, the player jerseys in white and gold, as well as some of the classic gold football, just good wearing shirts. And I actually saw a bunch of the Institute ones, at least enough that I feel compelled to mention that I saw a bunch of them yesterday at Bobby Dodd as I was walking around. So always good to see there. As always, free shipping on orders over $70 every day from Section 103 and section103.com.
Welcome back to Signs of the Southland for October 1st, 2023. Gentlemen, let's talk about men's tennis, and let's first take a wide-ranging detour to the country of Tunisia, which is where Andres Martin and Keshav Chopra found themselves last weekend. Please tell me more, Mr. Grant.
This has to be the first time Signs of the Southland has talked about Tunisia, right? Right?
Unless y'all talked about the filming of Tatooine, I could see no other reason why.
It is absolutely the first time.
We've never had any Tunisians on the team. I guess I should stop burying the lead. It seems that they went over to Tunisia, and this was all reported on based on the tennis Instagram page. They went over there and won a tournament, and it looked like it had a pretty good purse to it too. So,
nice.
Just things that we do during the school week. On
International champions.
Good for them. It's really that notch right under the French Open is the Tunisian slam or whatnot.
So I have a number of questions about this, but before I ask them, let me display let me talk through some results. So Andres Martin won his first pro singles title in Monastir, which I assume is in Tunisia. So that was the first tournament here, and then the first result, and then Keshav Chopra and Andres Martin won their doubles title, their first doubles title at the pro event in Tunisia, which I believe was the same event, and that had a $15,000 purse. Now, this raises 2 immediate questions to me. Number one, why were they sent to Tunisia if both of them are current Georgia Tech students? Right. And number 2, can they even collect the $15,000 purse if they're Georgia Tech students and that's not allowed via NIL? Because there was a story in the U.S. Open this past year where the amateur, I think it was the amateur, the highest ranked amateur got some sort of purse and had to turn it down. Otherwise, she would become an official pro. So, and would have had to, forfeit her NCAA eligibility. So I'm just very confused, is what I'm saying.
Okay. I Googled Monastir because I finally had a moment to do that. I meant to do it the other day. And the pictures kind of look awesome. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, looks like they got a fort right on the water. It's surrounded by the ocean. This looks kind of like a nice trip. I don't know. Maybe I want to go visit Monastir now. TBD.
This is wow. This is an actual tournament.
I'm seeing some beaches.
This is like
a train station.
It's an ITF sponsored tournament with commercial
nice
partners and everything.
There's a nice square, a historical place.
Hard court, by the way.
Huh.
So I guess, which is not expected, but hard court, yes.
Oh, shoot. Is this a Colosseum? Do they have a ruined Colosseum there? Who needs Verona or Rome when you can go to beautiful Monastir?
This is just so odd. This is just this is one of the most random tournaments I think anyone associated with tech has ever been sent to.
You say that,
but they had been like going to Europe, like the women's basketball team went to Europe for a preseason trip.
But that wasn't weird, and it wasn't like they had a very organized trip.
That wasn't during the semester.
Yeah, also
no, it was
that.
not. It was, you're right. It was before.
Like,
they did knock it out before. You're right. Yeah. So.
They just ended up in Tunisia. Don't know why. Don't know how. They just won. They won their events.
What went across J-Bat's
and a purse.
What went through J-Bat's mind when he was signing the check for the admit fees or the plane tickets for this to be like, yes, this makes sense to send our student athletes to Africa during the semester.
This actually raises a reasonable point. I should check if Chopra and Martin are listed on the roster at this stage, because if they accepted the purse, that means that they forfeited their NCAA.
They're on there. I looked at it like an hour ago. Whenever we were,
Chopra is on there, somehow listed at 6'1", 137, which I don't believe is true.
Yeah, they're both there.
Andres Martin is still also there. That's weird. No, I'm kind of uncomfortable with that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm really seeing a lot to like about Monastir. Not gonna lie to you, really a lot to like. But no, I've been scratching my brain trying to think of weirder like things that have happened. But this is really coming up with like men's basketball playing the Lithuanian national team or Marathon Oil's company team. Both of those were in like the wild, wild west of the 1980s basketball scene, though. So how much can you really draw a parallel to that? I do not know.
Parallel, but we can talk about actual results a little bit closer to home at the SIC Invitational in Athens, Mr. Grant.
That we can. Tech actually had a pretty good weekend for the 2 days of scores that we have up. I'm just going to run down some records. This is me copy, pasting, transcribing, and consolidating into individual lists. So hopefully I got them all. But as far as I can tell, Robert Bauer went 1-2, Chris Aurora, a new face 2-1, Gabriel Brancatelli 3-0. Looked like he was playing some ranked matches there. I think he was a 4 seed as well for the tournament as a whole. Elias Shakri, when I checked, was 2-0. Rohan Sakdev was 2-0 with a walkover as well. So I guess technically 3-0. Owen Demuth, I believe, was 0-2. Richard Biagiotti was 2-0. I will get better at pronouncing those names, I promise. And then in terms of doubles, I believe it was a 3-3 record overall with Gabriel Brancatelli and Richard Biagiotti at 2-0. And if my vibes based on that, which again, this is one weekend, we do host ITA regionals next weekend, so that'll give us a little bit more. But if the vibes are to be believed, if you have McDaniels, Martin, Chopra, Brancatelli, Biagiotti, Sakdev, Shokri, it seems like this team has certainly a full, 6 singles courts and 3 doubles pairings out of that list, right? Like I'm getting good vibes so far. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too excited.
Let me color in the lines a little bit here just to talk about some of these additions. Chris Aurora is a freshman from San Jose, California, from the California Connections Academy. Richard Biagiotti, freshman from Lunderskarv, Denmark, from the Odense.
Add that one to the map
club.
Of places we've got.
Gabriele Brancatelli from Florence, Italy, which is no surprise, but he is a transfer from Tennessee. Owen Demuth, freshman from Bloomfield, Michigan, from Cranbrook, Kingswood. And I think that rounds out the section. Yeah. Those are all of your new arrivals. Like Jake said, Tech will be hosting ITA regionals next weekend, starting on the 12th of October. They probably were not listed as one of the top 64 teams in the nation, so we
16.
don't know why. 16? Oh, it's 16. Yeah, hosting right.
Yeah.
So I guess they were within the top 64, but I assume that their one seed was unable to host. Let's move on to the other major fall sport on Tech's campus, volleyball. They beat Virginia Tech in a sweep on Friday at Castle Coliseum. They took care of business pretty easily. They have eclipsed 101 ACC wins in Michelle Collier's career at Georgia Tech. She is now the top-ranked coach in ACC wins in Tech history. VT made life a little difficult for volleyball, excuse me. VT made life a little difficult in the third set of this one, but not a lot else doing. The only major note from this game is that Liv Mogridge injured her right foot near the end after landing on Larissa Mendez and had to be helped off the court. So that's something to monitor heading into today's match at Wake Forest, which was a 3-2 victory. A close shave, if you will. Obviously, Liv Mogridge did not play, so Anna Bosey stepped in at middle blocker to start the game. And then you sort of get a cascade effect of lineup changes down there. Mr. Purdy, you watched this one in its entirety, so walk us through it.
All 3 hours and 1 minute of this match. This match took forever. There was replays galore. There was timeouts galore. They took every stoppage they could get. But honestly, both teams kind of needed them because momentum shifts were extremely valuable in this game. 3-2 win. Tech, it was alternating sets, so thankfully we won the first one, and so that meant we won the fifth one as well. Honestly, I don't think we played badly against Wake Forest. Wake Forest has been getting better. Like, they've been on a steady program climb. So I don't blame us for being not up to par when you don't have our main middle blocker there. That's going to hamper things as well. Anna Bosey did a great job. She had 8 blocks today, so she was not a negative whatsoever. But that just meant that when we were rotating, that there were other folks that got some time in the sun that probably wouldn't have usually had playing time against Wake Forest, who was 13-2 coming into this game, and while I noted earlier today on Twitter, their luck factor was insanely good compared to the rest of their stats, but something translated today, and they were able to pull off a couple sets. The first 3 sets were all 25-22. We won the first and third, and then we lost this fourth one, 25-21, and then we were up by 5 in the fifth set multiple times. Thankfully, Bertolino had a lot of aces today. She had 4 aces today, and 3 of them came back to back to back in the fifth set, which was extremely, finally her aces came at a clutch moment and paid off in a big way, which I know is something that we've been talking about. Like, there'd be just too many of those that just were not landing, and they were landing today. We had 11 aces for the day, which effectively compensated for the fact that the point margin was 2. We had a +2 point margin for the entire thing. The other big note is that Bella D'Amico was bad today. Like, she was not good at setting the ball at all. Things looked all right for the first couple points. It was kind of okay, and then she set 3 or 4 in a row, just basically behind Tamara Otene and Bianca Bertolino, and that was all that she really got to see of that. Because that Collier was willing to be patient with. She switched to her 6-2 formation, which has Eloise Suarez at setter, and Smiley Manning at middle blocker. That subs out D'Amico and Larissa Mendez, and then she brought back D'Amico in for 1 point after she switched back to her 5-1, and it was such a bad set that was it. She was done. So Darren Suker took over for the rest of the first set, and then Suarez was the main setter for the rest of the match. And she did well. She had 34 assists. She looked good. The only thing that I noted that the broadcast crew was going to note was that just because she's a little bit smaller than D'Amico, you can target her at the net a little bit more when you're attacking. You're not going to get as much of a reach, so that doesn't help as much. And Wake Forest was really balanced offensively. Like they were getting a lot of different people attacking a lot. There wasn't any like one notable person like there was in that Georgia match where you couldn't we couldn't deal with one particular person. We could kind of deal with everything. They could kind of deal with everything that we gave them in fits and starts. And we just thankfully had the runs at the right times, honestly. It's gonna there this was absolutely an adjustment game at the same time to figure out how to play without your really tall, really good middle blocker, because she can, when she hits the ball, she hits it hard, like she hits it really hard, and Bosie does not hit it hard. She hits it well, but she does not hit it hard relative to Mogridge. So some of those attack opportunities that usually be your quick sets to the middle, we didn't really have that today. So that was a big weapon. We just didn't have to sneak attack or pick up a couple extra points here and there. Bianca Bertolino, before I stop talking, she had 22 kills, her career high, 54 attacks, career high, 14 digs. She was everything she needed to be. She played the kind of game that Bergman would play, where if things were just going sideways, she just takes over. Not to the extent that Bergman would, because she's not Bergman, of course. But she did exactly what she needed to do today, and she had 4 blocks as well. So she covered a lot of bases. She had a ton of it and 4 aces as well at that critical time in the 5th set. So the team leader did team leader things today, which is really good to see. So as much as it's rough that we had to play a 5-setter, we play Pitt next at Pitt. And last time we played at Pitt, we went to 5 sets and just barely lost. So I'm kind of glad we had one under our belts now to feel out, to get to that point into a match mentally, especially for the freshmen that haven't done that at Tech. So I don't know how long Mogers is going to be out. I'm going to ask the team again soon. So that's my 5 minutes.
Mr. Grant, I'm going to ask you the same question twice. In the middle, I'm going to offer a new piece of information. The first time, how do you feel about this team, about this result for this team?
After Friday, I felt good. I was listening to that one come across, and I think they handled Virginia Tech about as well as they could. And given that Wake Forest is, maybe not the cream of the crop in the conference, but seems to always give us a little bit of trouble in their building, I'm gonna say fine. I mean, they won the game, right? They were on the road and at least over TV, Jack. And I don't know your thoughts on this. It looked pretty full. I mean, Wake Forest doesn't have the biggest gym in the world. I think it's literally like
it's kind of comparable to ours. It's really
center.
Comparable to ours. It's tight. Yeah. You got your normal kind of bleachers.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it wasn't like full, but like it wasn't empty.
It seemed like they had a decent crowd. It's a Sunday. I don't know. At the end of the day, they won. It wasn't the prettiest match in the world, but I don't know. I think I'm feeling fine. Fine for now. I'll reassess based on the Mogridge situation probably, but they're doing all right. I don't think they'll move up in the polls, but I don't think they'll move down either.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was probably more answer than you were looking for.
Yeah, and I think somewhere along the lines, I realized that the question that I asked originally was the wrong one, but we're going to move past that. Let me put this to you. NC State dog walked Louisville in their own building 3-1 today.
No, that was in NC State's building.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I didn't make that clear. In NC State's own building in Reynolds Coliseum. I mean, Louisville got beaten like a drum, is what I was told by an NC State fan earlier today. Given that context, how do you feel about the state of this team heading into a tougher opponent like Pitt and the state of the ACC as a whole this season?
Honestly, better. I mean, I was a little concerned when I saw the stat line from the NC State game. I know that we did not have the most fun conversation in the world about it last week. So, if it means that, and we kind of I read some schedules last week on there. Apologies. I know that's not the most exciting thing in the world, but between NC State, Miami, Florida State, Louisville, Pitt, Tech, I think the floor of the ACC has come up a little bit, maybe a little bit faster than we were expecting. And hey, if it means that Wake Forest and NC State are competing for at-large bids in the tournament, or I'm not going to put any carts before any horses, but It helps the conference as a whole, and I think it's really a league that's gotten a lot better at this sport. I think faster than most people have kind of given it credit for, based on how many at-larges we've gotten the last couple of years. That said, NC State, I'm moving to the quality win bucket. How's that?
I will also add, just in terms of schedule sequencing, NC State has actually already played two of what we consider the top three teams in the ACC. So they played Tech, obviously. They've now beaten Louisville, and they have Pitt left. Whereas for Tech still has to play Pitt next weekend, and then they still have Louisville at least once somewhere
we have
on
both
the
those
slate.
teams twice still.
You're trying to talk us into NC State winning the conference simply because their schedule is easier. That's where you're going with
No.
this.
I'm not making any sort of I like honest to God, I'm not making any sort of inclination. I'm not making any sort of implication. I'm just saying this is the way that the schedule has fallen for NC State, and this is the way that the schedule is falling for Tech. There's no ulterior motive. I'm just pointing out the sequencing that I think it's interesting that they've already gotten two of the big three, and we're about to get our first crack at one, being that we are one of the big three in this person's opinion.
I'm looking at
be ready to play on Friday. That's all I'm saying.
I'm looking at the conference stat page. Do y'all want to guess who is fourth in assists in the conference playing for Notre Dame?
The fact
I have
that you
no
said
idea.
It like that makes it believe it's an old friend. Who
old
friend is this?
Nicole Drunick.
Nicole Drunick transferred to Notre Dame.
She has 9.74 assists per set, which is 0.5 better than D'Amico, who, as I mentioned earlier, got subbed out today.
Curious, Jack.
I thought
curious.
So she's a grad transfer Notre Dame to Notre Dame, huh?
It has to be something like that, yeah, because she had the whole senior send-off thing last year. So
yes, I have opened up her social media, and it does say that she is getting a master's in nonprofit business from Notre Dame.
Gotcha. Well, there you go.
So that is not something that we offer, and she does have an extra year. So,
good on her. Good on her. And they were not good last year, so they certainly could have used her services. So that's great. I'm not looking at the rest of the just blanket stat pages here. We're tops in the ACC and service aces, probably because of Bertolino. Our digs per set are nearly 2 better than the next best in the ACC, which is Virginia Tech of all teams. Pitt is 14th in digs in the ACC, and Louisville is 12th. So they are relying on offense, not on defense, and they're basically leading in every other offensive category. So in terms of squaring up against Pitt, that's not bad. Pitt also allows 10 kills a set, and we have 14 kills a set. So I'm not saying it's not impossible. We did really well against them last year because Brilliant Morissette decided to leave her body and become a whole new player for that game. But this is not impossible. What we have done in these last couple of weeks is overcome a lot of unfortunate mediocre play, but have adapted really well and still come out on top every time and not let that cripple us. Otane's had bad games. D'Amico's had multiple bad games now. Bertolino's had bad games at the service line where we need her to be great. Banyang has come in clutch a bunch of times too, and they keep figuring out ways to win, which is critical here. I mean, we're 13-1. We've won all of our ACC games. All of our really important games are still to come, of course. But at least looking contextually with everything else going on here in the ACC, the floor is better. Yeah, I mean, Collier's noted that. I think every team in the conference thinks that the conference is better. We're not the Big 12 yet. We're not the Pac-12 yet, or the Big 10. We're not the Big 10 or the Pac-12 for that matter. So yeah, things are getting better. I don't think we should be surprised down the line when it's like, wait a second, how did Syracuse get a set on us? How did Duke really push us in 4 or something like that? I don't think we should be disappointed if that happens. That
we should not lose a set till November. Blah 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 blah. Yeah,
that's not gonna happen.
Hey.
Well, we're not that good, but then even then,
believe that still.
The top teams are still dropping sets. Florida lost this past week too, so they're 4th in the country. So it's totally it is not crazy, dude. I mean, we mentioned this after the Georgia loss. Yes, there's reasons why we shouldn't have lost that game, but it's not going to be crazy when we lose 1 or 2 random ones here. That's just probably going to happen. And today very well could have been one of those days if we fought it off, which is really, really good to see.
That's something that's what good teams do.
Exactly.
A couple of things that I want to note, just looking at the Evolve volleyball stats here as well. The tech serve error rate and their block rate stand out pretty convincing, or not convincingly, pretty clearly when you look at their box score, their season level stats. The serve error rate is 65th percentile in the nation, and the block rate is 35th percentile in the nation. So it's whereas all the rest of their stats are pretty firmly in the green, going from the 70th to 99th percentile. So they're really good at limiting their opposition's kill rate, but they're just not able to take advantage of size on the blocks, and they're also just hurting themselves by committing a lot of service errors. So if you're looking for room for improvement, just based on the numbers here, those are the two areas that I would expect teams to want. The teams are obviously going to take advantage on the block. I think Georgia did that really well. I didn't see what Wake did, but I can tell you for a fact that Georgia did that really well. And they just have to eliminate some of these mistakes on the service line in order to get better very quickly. So that's kind of that I think if you're looking for things to look for the rest of the season, and also heading into Pitt for weaknesses that Pitt might key on, that's what you got. And I think that block rate has been the story of this team for a while now.
We really had 22 blocks today.
On the blocks.
We really had 22 blocks today. So like that kind of came out of nowhere today. Granted 5 sets, so you're gonna have the inflation everywhere, but it was there. They did it.
I will also say that these stats don't include today's game. So okay. We'll see an adjustment when the new data comes in tomorrow, I assume. But I can kind of only go off what I have. So
Husker Geeks had us as the 217th best blocking team in the country right now. So Eddie about
out of like 300 something teams. So
yeah,
that's not going to cut it. Yeah, that's not going to cut it. And I think that's a pretty shocking departure from where they were last year, even, right? Like last year, they were 76th percentile in block rate.
Oh, it updated. We're now 210th.
Significant jump.
We're 210th now. It updated.
Fascinating. What a jump.
6 spots in one podcast episode.
They're going to need to get better at that. It's their Achilles heel. They're just going to have to get better at it. For sure. Like we talked about, just to wrap up here, Pac now 13-1, 4-0 ACC. They will play again Friday at 7 p.m. at Pittsburgh, and then they have a Sunday game in Charlottesville versus UVA. So I think that wraps us up on volleyball. Just to get through a couple more news items and schedule items. Baseball announced their fall ball schedule. They will be playing Kennesaw State on the 14th of October at 1 p.m. and then a UAB on the 27th of October at 5:30 p.m. Both of those games are free admission to the public. So go and check those out. I think the 14th is a Saturday. I actually think one of those is Saturday and one of those is a Friday. So should be nice matinees for those. Softball had 2 exhibitions versus Emory and North Georgia in the past week. As far as I can tell, I don't think that there were any results or stats or anything collected for those that we can access. So we'll keep you posted if we see anything, but they happened. So softball season is gearing up as well. Women's tennis, like we alluded to earlier, will be starting the ITA All-American tournament next weekend. I think they're in Cary, we said.
Yeah.
So look out for results from that this week. And then men's golf is at the Ben Hogan Collegiate this week. So that is also on the docket. Gentlemen, are you ready to go through the ACC football tasting menu for what is this, week 6 now?
Yeah, my goodness.
Time flies. Let's get to it.
Starting at noon on Saturday on CBS Sports Network, Boston College visits Army. It visits West Point. Army is a 4-point favorite at home. Mr. Purdy, what say you?
Boston College they've played some close games, but they also have played some not close games. So I'm okay with picking Army here at home.
Next up, same at noon on ACC Network in Charlottesville, Bill and Mary visits Virginia. This game does not have a line attached to it, but I assume you have an opinion, Mr. Grant.
I would stay far away if there was a line. I don't bet, but not
It's
something
also
I would
illegal in the state
recommend
of Georgia.
touching. This might be UVA's last best chance for a win. So
Bill and Mary
yeah,
4-1,
Oh,
UVA
yeah.
0-5. UVA has not won a game since Elon Musk bought Twitter. Note that fact in the ship's log. 2 p.m. on the CW, Marshall visits NC State. NC State is a 6-point favorite, Mr. Purdy.
It would be incredible if Marshall beat two ACC teams in the same year. Like that'd be insane.
incredible for who? Not
Marshall
the ACC.
for Marshall. I mean, granted, one of them was against Virginia, so like that we were. I think that one could have been conceded from the get go. NC State played Louisville pretty well last week, so I have no qualms in picking them here and covering. They have a 7-point spread.
Moving on, let's talk about Virginia Tech visiting Tallahassee. That is undefeated Florida State at 4-0, 2-0 in the ACC. 25.5 points, says the odds makers for FSU, Mr. Grant.
Yeah, that seems large, but good for them. I don't know if Virginia Tech really has much juice in this game. I think it's Florida State all day.
That's a 3:30 kick on ABC. Also at 3:30 on ESPN, Syracuse 4-1. Syracuse, I might add, visits Chapel Hill to play number 14 UNC. UNC is a 9-point favorite at home, Mr. Purdy.
UNC was weirdly in so many like graphics about like chances to win the ACC, chances to win so and so that made no sense whatsoever. And I got a feeling this game will put an end to a lot of that, considering they have to play in Chapel Hill and do not get the dome effect. So, what
I think you meant to say Syracuse to lead that, but I will allow it.
What? Okay, cool. I don't know what I said already. I'm mostly through my glass of wine here. So, yeah, UNC wins.
3:30 on ACC Network. Wake Forest at 3-1 visits Clemson at 3-2. This is weird. Clemson, 20-point favorite. Mr. Grant, what say ye?
That's not that weird for Clemson. Wake Forest. Wake has not been a team that's really gotten it done in Death Valley in years. I don't think that starts this week.
7:30 on ABC at Cardinal Stadium, formerly Papa John Stadium in Louisville, Kentucky. Number 10 Notre Dame visits number 25 Louisville. I should have flipped this one over to Mr. Grant, but Mr. Purdy, you get the con on this one.
I see it'd be really fun to watch. I mean, Duke played Notre Dame hard. Sadly, their quarterback, sadly, Riley went out. Riley Leonard? Yeah, Riley Leonard went out in that game, so that could have been a whole different end than what they got there. Yeah, with this being at Louisville, I would not be surprised if this is still a one-score game again. I will take Notre Dame again here, but winning by 2 at most.
That about rounds it out for the ACC slate. Let's talk about Sicko Picks of the Week. As always, you can check GameOnPaper.com for the official Sickos Committee, Sickos Game of the Week sometime this week. But Mr. Grant, you have the first pick this week. What do you have for me?
Yeah, I've got NIU at Akron because this is a MAC podcast now, and they're both 1-4. So somebody's got to win that. Really, if you want to go really far, Akron barely lost to Indiana, who gave Louisville some fits. College football is weird. This is one of those times.
This is definitionally one of these teams has to win this game. Yes, that is true. Mr. Purdy.
I have gone with well, I didn't anticipate. I forgot that a specific former quarterback at Georgia Tech played for one of these teams when I made this pick. But I picked the Nebraska-Illinois game because if you look on ESPN, it says it uses their letter logo, so it says NI, and the first thing that came to mind was me from the greatest movie of all time. So it's the game that says me.
I didn't know the Rise of Skywalker had a line that said knee in it.
You need to go to jail, sir.
I exist to create mess. The last seemingly resembling news item that came across my desk before we go to trivia. The schedule for Ramblin' Rec Club homecoming events is out if you want to mark your calendars. 5:30 p.m. on October 27th will be the Mini 500. That is usually broadcast on YouTube or Facebook as well, so keep an eye out for that. Freshman cake race, if anyone is a sicko enough to wake up at 6:30 a.m., is at 6:30 a.m. on October 28th. So if you're a freshman and listening to this, one, welcome. Thank you for finding our podcast. And two, go sign up for Freshman Cake Race. And three, at 9 a.m. on October 28th, after Freshman Cake Race, will be the Ramblin' Rec Parade. All information about how to enter these events can be found at reclub.org, or you can probably bother one of us on social media and we will point you to the right place. Mr. Grant, hit me with the trivia hammer.
We know Michelle Collier recently became the winningest ACC conference volleyball coach, if you will, for Georgia Tech. I didn't word that very well, but right. She's got 102 wins now after today. There are 13 other coaches across all sports with at least 102 wins. Name them. In conference, 102 wins in conference. Name them.
Across all sports?
Across all sports. One super obvious.
Yeah, Danny.
Yeah. Extremely obvious.
Very obvious with Danny here.
Yeah.
Bobby?
Which
Kravitz?
one?
Kravitz?
He's got 150.
Okay.
But there's another Bobby with at least 100.
Dodd,
between football and baseball,
right,
has cleared 111 SEC conference wins.
Okay.
There are 10 remaining.
Hooray! I don't know. I don't have a lot of comments.
No one else?
For
Not a
this,
single other guess?
Wait. We named 3 of 13? Oh, dear God.
You've named 3 of 13.
Oh, wait, 100.
You're not going to get at least 5 of these, but
okay,
two are actively whatchamacallit, tech coaches. So
I assume both. Wait,
there are 2 active coaches. We've talked about both of their teams tonight with at least 100 ACC wins.
I mean, softball plays enough games.
Eileen Morales only has 57.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how long she's been here. Okay. Wait. Oh,
cross country can.
I assume the tennises have to. The tennises have to, right?
Do you know their names?
Kenny.
That would be Kenny Thorne and Rodney Harmon.
Kenny Thorne.
Great.
All right.
Beyond that,
I'm not convinced you'll get any of the rest of these, so I'm going to give them to you. But I wanted you to at least get those. Reading down the list, we've mentioned both Bobbies, Dodd and Cremens. We've also got Brian Shelton with exactly 102. Brian Shelton, women's tennis coach for the 2007 team, who went on to Florida. I believe, Akshay, wasn't his son a semifinalist at the U.S. Open like a couple weeks ago?
Sheldon, yes. He also left Florida this past offseason to help his son train.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And of course, Danny with 477, far and away the most. The rest of these are all just a couple hundred, or within the 100, I should say. Jim Morris with 156. He is Tech's, I believe, second winningest coach overall, but a bunch of his tenure, I believe, overlapped with Independence times. But Jim Morris, he of Miami and Georgia Tech baseball fame. Joe Petard, I believe those are SEC baseball wins, but don't quote me on that. He's actually under 500 all time in conference. Kenny Thorne, also the interesting distinction of being under 500 in conference. He's 121 and 150. There's another name immediately after him on this list, also under 500. That would be one Michelle Joseph, who had 126 ACC wins in her time on the flats. Obviously, we know Michelle Collier. I believe she's only just added 10 since I last updated the script. I don't believe she's added any losses. So good for her. There's probably 1 or 2 in there, but that's just me shooting off the hip there. Who else? Rodney Harmon, who we mentioned. Roy Mundorf, Sharon Perkins, Shelton Collier, and Wack Hyder of basketball with 109. I believe those are SEC wins as well.
I think that about wraps it up for us tonight. Mr. Grant, walk us out.
Yes, as always, thank you for tuning in. It's been I think a long episode. I can't really tell. But as always, thanks for tuning in. This podcast is available wherever fine podcasts are distributed. You can find the rest of our content at fromtherumbleseat.com. You can email us at fromtherumbleseat@gmail.com. We do appreciate any feedback you've got there. You can find the blog on Twitter at FTRS blog. I'm at JakeGrant98 and Jack is at Jack Nicholas. You can find Section 103 there as well at Section 103 and Section103.com. And you can find this here blog at Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at From the Rumble Seat. Like I said, been a long one, been an interesting weekend, but we appreciate you sticking with us. As always, good night, good luck, and go Jackets. See you next week.